Hello, Facebook. What's up? Good evening. This is your girl T Renee, and we are here today. This will be the last day of the 30-day Facebook Live challenge because I'm starting a new challenge. I just joined a group. One of my super friends, Contessa, posted about it, and they have some awesome things going on for the month of October. So you will see my face, but it'll just be in a different format. I'll still be doing live videos, and there'll be quite a few social media posts for me coming up for the month of October. But I'm doing this next challenge to enhance my business. Hey girlie, how you doing? So that's what I'm going to be doing. So we're here today. I posted on my page just a few minutes ago the topic for today, but I'll read it so you don't have to go and search it. And it was a couple of, I guess it was a few weeks ago, I watched a movie called Diary of a Tired Black Man. And I posted several statements from the movie, and some of them really stood out to me. And there was one in particular that a few people commented on, and I promised that I would come on Facebook Live and we could discuss it. So hopefully some fellas join us. I have asked some guys that I know their take on it, and then I found a really great article that I'm going to read to you guys on this subject, and then you can chime in your thoughts. So the statement was that one of the guys made, he said, if a man can't lead at home, he can't lead anywhere else, and eventually he will get tired and move on. So in talking to that day when I had the discussion, there was some different viewpoints, and some women feel like, that statement isn't fair, or that's a different mentality that they can't quite comprehend. Whereas some guys feel like that statement is somewhat true. They feel like if they can't be the man in the house, or then they feel worthless, or they feel like what's the point in them being there if the woman wants to be in control. Now I know that's a kind of a touchy subject for us, especially in today's time, and we have a lot of these feminists and different things, and in some cases the man has let go of the strength that he once held in the home. So there's a lot of variances on this topic. However, I think it's one that we should talk about. I think it's one that we should address, because there's so much talk about single motherhood, or now we have a lot of single fathers. And so I was reading an article where, let me find it real quick, and it talked about the divorce rate within the Black community, and I thought the numbers were very interesting, and it kind of goes along with what we're talking about. So it says that this is from the is healthmarriageinfo.org. So their statistics show that the Black woman's divorce rate is nearly double that of white or Hispanic women. It says between 1970 and 2000, the percent of African Americans who have ever married declined from 64% to 55% among men, and from 72% to 58% among women. Now that was based on a census done in 2003. And I was like, wow, that was, kind of drastic drop. And to say that, Black women, we have a higher divorce rate than men. So it got me to thinking back about that statement. Like, okay, so are we, and again, Black women, stick with me here. Are we the cause of our men not being in the home? Now, I know that is not 100% true. But do we have some responsibility in that nature? I can remember a long time ago, I think I only had Anthony and baby Crystal at the time, and there was an evangelist that had came to speak at our church, and she and I took a liking to each other. So we started hanging out. Well, not necessarily hanging out, but she became like a mentor to me. And one day she and I were riding to lunch, and she said to me, she said, you know, you are so independent that you're not going to be able to find a man or be in a healthy relationship based on your independence. And I didn't understand what she meant. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how can I be too independent? And she said, well, you're so independent that you feel like you don't need a man. Now, how many times have we heard women say, I don't need a man? And I was like, well, I don't. You know, that's how I responded to her. And I was like, you know, all I need him for is sex. Because at the time, that was really how I felt. Because I had, you know, been in relationships, and I had tried, you know, to, I had even been married before, and I tried to, you know, give that man, you know, that role in my life where he was the head or whatever, because growing up in church, that's what we're taught, that the man is the head of the household, and that, you know, the woman or wife is supposed to be submissive to her husband. Now, even in that statement, the word submissive, you know, that meaning has been, you know, thrown around several different ways. And so a lot of women nowadays don't even like the word because of the negative connotation that it has now. So when she told me that statement, I really didn't, you know, I didn't get it, like I said, and I didn't understand it. And she went on to say, she said, the problem is that you've had to do it by yourself for so long, and you've had to make all of the decisions on your own. So now you're at a place in your life to where you feel like, well, what is the point? What else can he do that I can't do by myself? And I was like, wow, you know, that statement is true. And so I did. I stayed by myself for a long time. You know, I tried to have other relationships, of course, because I had 2 more children after that. However, those relationships didn't last very long. And again, I, you know, can admit that I wasn't in a position to allow them to have quote unquote control over me and my life. Like, I was very vocal about decisions that were made for our household and for the children that were present in the home. And it was like I had to have the last say, like I had to have the last word. And so those relationships didn't work out. Now, I'm not saying that that was 100% my fault or because of how I was treating the situation, but I will say that did play a part in it, because I didn't even give them the opportunity to show me how they would lead, or if they even were capable of leading, because now not everybody is meant to be a leader, and not everybody is meant to even be in a relationship for that matter. But the main thing is that the role of a black man has been diminished, you know, over time, and it goes, you know, way back. And I think that it is important that we revisit that role, and that we look at, you know, how we as women are approaching that, and how we are treating them, you know, and how we are making them feel. So let me read to you some of this article that I found. And the author of this article pretty much states my sentiment, you know, on some things. So I'll read to you what she said, and then you guys feel free to chime in anytime. So I'm going to sit this tablet down here a little bit so I can see. So she says that she was reading an article, and it was just discussing what we're talking about now, the gender norms. And so there was a comment that struck out to her. And the comment was, the term head of household has always come off to me as a way to keep a man happy while letting him off the hook, feeding his ego in a way that a real partnership should not require. It's as if black women are so happy to have a man around that they'll play at being submissive, so men still feel needed just because they're so often told they're not. And she says, I do not want that for myself. So the author of the article says, while she doesn't quite agree with everything that this comment states, that, you know, there is some truth to that. So she says, growing up as a single mother, but raised in a traditional Southern town via a church community, I find myself debating referring to men as head of household. Part of me feels like, well, if I call them that, what's it hurting? The other part of me feels like, why? Sorry, is that the only qualifier to be the head of household is reproductive organs? So her perspective is, we don't hear about the term head of household in non-minority communities nearly as much as we do in minority communities, specifically the Black community. And she says Black men are consistently marginalized and degraded by society on a regular basis. So in some ways, it seems like the head of household title is a way for us to make men feel like, well, okay, white America doesn't like you, but guess what? You're the head of this family and you are appreciated here, regardless of what the media or society tells you every day. You mean something. So it got me to thinking, like, do we just give that title, or did we start giving that title based on, again, what Black men had gone through stemming back from even slavery days? Are we using that title to just pacify them, or do we really mean that we want them in that role and they are appreciated in that role? And, you know, how, if that role is not being fulfilled, then how do we encourage, you know, ourselves as women to uphold that? And then how do we encourage our man to take up that role in a way to where it's not demeaning to us as a woman? Because again, a lot of men have taken that submissive term to mean, you know, you have to bow down to me and do what I say, and you know what I mean, and you don't have an opinion on anything. Where on the flip side to that, my personal feeling is that, you know, being submissive, it just means that you know, respect him as your mate, as, you know, a decision maker, as a provider, and as, you know, if there's children involved, in the children, you know, your children's father. So why shouldn't he be respected? Why shouldn't his opinion matter? If we want, you know, them to bring home the bacon, as they used to say back in my grandma's days, then why can't we respect his opinion? Why can't we respect the things that he would like to have? You know, granted, we're not going to always agree on everything, right? We're not going to always see eye to eye, but we should, as a couple, be able to compromise, and we should be able to come to some sort of agreement to where both parties are respected, and, you know, that we can move forward. So there should be roles. Like my uncle, one of my uncles, he says he's not good with money, with managing money. So his wife handles all of that. He gives her his paycheck and she takes care of all of their bills and whatever the kids need. That works for them. That may not work for you, but that works for them. So you have to decide, you know, what role are you going to play and what role are you going to be happy with? Because you can't say you want him to be in charge, but then when he says, you know, okay, we're not going to do X, Y, Z, then you're bent out of shape and you're making a big deal out of it. And then you guys are arguing, and then it's, you know, going on to something worse than what you intended it to be. Now, there was another part in this article that she says that putting this title on Black men is causing a lot of pressure. So she says this statement, the man being the head of the household, is causing more pressure on the Black man to live up to this ideal Black man standard and to not fall into becoming a negative statistic and stereotype. Examples: no job, in jail, different baby mamas, etc., etc. She says, unfortunately, I see a lot of my fellow sisters applying this pressure on a very regular basis. The other reason why men feel this pressure is because over the years, they have been given a very narrow standard as to what a provider actually truly means. Basically, black men could also be putting these incredibly high standards on themselves where no outside pressure is needed. She goes on to say, my idea is that as wives, we should take some of the impetus off of our husbands. She says, I don't think I need to tell my husband that he's the head of the household in order to make him feel like he makes a huge contribution to our family. My husband also doesn't need to have the title head of a household to know that he's that dude. She says she also feels like it's unfair of her as his wife to expect him to be the main provider or the main person keeping the family together. Where do we as women come in? And she says she doesn't think it's fair for her to expect her husband to scrimp, hustle, and take on all of the extra duties for the sake of his man role while she chills idly by. And she says she believes that in both of us striving equally to attain our goals as a family. So, what do you guys feel about that statement? I agree with that statement. I don't feel like, everything should be on the man. I feel like I said, we should all identify what our roles in the relationship are going to be, and then we should move accordingly. So if I decide that I want to be Susie Homemaker, then I need to make sure that the home is also, is always taken care of, that he doesn't have to, come in and the house is a mess and kids are everywhere and there's no food cooked, if I decide that that's the road that I want to take. If I don't want to do all that, then I need to be vocal about that. I think a lot of times we get into relationships and we, like she said earlier, we let the man believe, certain things just so that we can get them or to pacify them. And then once we get into the relationship, then, everything goes to rubbish because we decide like that's not really what we wanted to do. So I'm not doing it. And now he's looking like, well, what the heck? And then you looking like, what the heck? So I think that we need to, like I said, define what those roles are, and we need to stick to it. We need to figure out who you want to be. Who do you want him to be? And then move accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't just say, tell him that he's the head of the household and then we don't believe that. And then you need to determine what do you feel that is. For me, that's him making the final decision, him saying, okay, if I say, oh, I want to do this, and then he says, well, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, let's discuss it. And then if he's really, saying, nope, this is not what I want to do, then okay, then I have to decide, do I want to roll with him, go with the flow, or do I want to go against it and understand that if I go against what he's saying, then that's going to cause some rift between us, and then that may lead to something else. It may lead to an unnecessary argument or some tension in our home. So I think that, we need to really figure that out. And I was hoping that there are some guys on here watching today. So fellas, if you guys have any comments on that, let me know, because I'm just speaking from a woman's point of view. So I don't know. I'm not a man, and I'm trying not to speak for a man. So if you guys have any comments, then go ahead and jot them down in the comment section and I'll read them to the viewers. Let's see. We do have some comments. So Sean says, cutting the grass, fixing the sink, doing the plumbing can be done by a woman. True enough, it can be done by a woman. However, if that's not what she feels she should do as a woman, then what say you? What would you do in that situation? I know a lot of times as a single mother, I've had to do quite a few of those things, but it's not something fun. Not fun that I wanted to do. I mean, I know how to go underneath the hood of my car and check my fluids because my daddy made sure I knew how to do that. But It's not something that I, will wake up and say I want to go under the hood of my car. However, I can do it. But that doesn't mean that I want to. So that's what I'm saying. Defining those stated gender roles, or whatever that role is going to be in your relationship. That's what we need to do. Okay, so Nicole says, but that's a man's job. So then what do you feel is a woman's job? If it's a man's job to cut the grass, fix the sink, handle the plumbing, then what would be the woman's job in return? What is her role? On the opposite spectrum, what is her role? Because like I said, if I have to do all that, then, what are you there for? So when Quilla says communication is key in the roles in the home and have to be established from the beginning. Exactly. And that's, again, a lot of times we don't discuss those things in dating. We're, so clouded by the infatuation or the lustful feelings that we have for the other person. So we don't discuss our true feelings. And so you base your relationship simply on lust or attraction, and you don't have those meaty conversations that you should have. And so then a year into it, you looking like, who the heck, am I with? And, sometimes not even that soon, maybe 2 to 5 years down the road, before you really find out how that person truly feels, before you find out if, he doesn't like cleaning up, or she don't know how to cook, or, one or the other doesn't want to have kids, or one believes in punishment by physical nature, and the other one doesn't. Like, those are conversations that you should be having. Okay, so Nicole responds, says the woman should clean, make sure the house is straight. No man should want his woman to be out there doing hard labor. Okay, so again, that's her opinion, and that's something that she should discuss when entering into a relationship with someone, because there's things that you may not mind doing, but then he may not want you to do that, or she may not, so again, you guys have to discuss in the beginning those hard conversations. And I think if we have more hard conversations, or conversations like we're having now, just generally, we can together collectively as a community, restructure what society sees as our home life, and even what we see as our home life. We are so riddled now by broken homes and single parenthood that it's become the norm. And yes, we still have people getting married, but are they staying married, and why are they getting married, and what are the discussions leading up to that marriage, and are we continuously thinking about having a village surrounding us to help us take care of our home and help us, lift each other up when we're feeling down. Like, I think we've gotten away from a lot of those core principles that we used to have. And now everybody's just kind of running amok and just, doing things idly and not really thinking about the effects of our choices. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I think there was one more thing in this article that I wanted to... Okay, so she had a couple of questions here. So one of the questions was that I thought stuck out is that, what does provider mean to you, and what does that encompass? I think a lot of times women, we immediately think provider is just financial, and we don't think that it encompasses anything other than that. And, I think some men feel that way too, that all they have to do is go to work and bring home the money to pay the bills, and they don't have to provide any emotional support, or they don't have to provide any educational support, or, any of those other things. Sometimes, women, you use sex as your bargaining tool, which I don't agree with. I don't think that you should do that. I don't think a man should have to be put in that type of position. And then you wondering why, your man is cheating. Now, again, there's various reasons for cheating. However, if you are withholding that physical thing from him, my grandfather always said it takes a strong man to have, some fresh meat standing in front of him for him to turn it down. So what I'm saying is, if you are constantly putting him in that position, what is his recourse? You know, what other choices does he have? Either he walks away from you and moves on, or he stays with you for whatever reason and then goes and steps out on the side. Now, either may not be right, or we may not feel like he should be doing either, but what are we doing to lead him to that decision? Nicole says, I think a lot of people just do it because it's cool. They want the title. I want to be like my parents, that old school love, 26 years. Wow. Congratulations to your parents for 26 years of marriage. That is really, really awesome. And so, yeah, a lot of people do just feel like, you know, I want to be in a relationship because it's cool. Or, you know, they want to walk around with and have bragging rights. But, you know, what does that really mean to you to be in a relationship? And how are you, you know, or how much are you willing to work in order to make that thing last and to make it strong? I think that we need to really think about those decisions and, you know, ask ourselves, am I willing to give 100%? You know what I'm saying? Not 50-50. That ain't gonna work. Each person needs to be given 100% of themselves in order for that relationship to work. All right. So when Quilla says, what if the roles are switched and the man stays at home? Well, again, I think that if a man is going to stay at home, then you still have to discuss what the nature of those roles are going to be. Let's say, for instance, he, you know, has a criminal background, and so it's difficult for him to get, you know, a good paying job. So you decide, because you are able to make more money than him as a woman, you decide, well, you stay at home with the kids and I'm going to continue working. So now you still cannot make that man feel less than because he's at home and you're working, because that's what you chose to do. If you don't feel comfortable with that, then don't do it. But if you're okay with it, then you have to still respect him as a man, and you still have to respect him as still a provider, because now he's providing a home life for you. He should be providing a comfortable living environment, so that way when you come home from work, you don't have to do anything but shower, eat dinner, chill, and go to bed. And so again, you have to be able and be willing to discuss that, because you can't just say, okay, I'm all right with it, and then 6 months into it, you got attitude because you going to work and you tired and he at home, you know, and then you arguing with him over something that you agree with. And yes, you have the right to change your mind, but change your mind appropriately and have a healthy discussion about it. All right, Nicole says, a provider is supposed to be a partner, not someone who pays for everything. A provider keeps going whether you are up or down. They provide the emotional support, financial, and all the rest, not just money. I agree with that. That's what a provider should be. Even if he's a provider, he should also be your partner. And I think too, when we talk about gender roles, that's another thing that has, you know, been lost in translation, because again, some men feel like they're in control. That means they rule, and that, you know, the woman has to bow down and do whatever he says. And then on the flip side to that, some women, you know, have the attitude where I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I don't care if he is, you know, paying all the bills. I'm my own woman and I want to have my own opinion. And that's what she does. So somewhere in there, you guys have to find the middle ground, and you have to come to a healthy agreement that's going to work for the both of you, because nobody wants to get into a relationship and, you know, you thinking you all happy and everything's all bliss, and then, like I said, you know, a year or two down the road, you find out that you guys don't agree on things, and then you wondering why, you know, he's not picking up his dirty clothes and he's expecting for you to have dinner cooked even though you went to work too. and he don't understand why ain't no food, and you don't understand why he tripping because y'all both been at work. Well, that's because y'all didn't discuss that. It's a conversation that y'all need to have. It's a conversation that you need to, set guidelines for. And as you evolve as a couple and as you grow as people, yes, things will change. And then you need to revisit those same conversations, because in the beginning, when you're young, especially if you get married at a young age, you may feel one way. And then, like I said, as you grow, those feelings may change, and your outlook on something may change. So I think that the key here, the main thing that we all keep talking about, is communication. Communication is the key. And also as women, we need to really be certain as to what we feel the man's role is in our lives and in our home. And we need to be comfortable with whatever that is, and we need to be vocal about what that is, and not just sit and think, oh, I can wait, because I don't want to mess things up right now. No, you're going to mess things up worse if you don't tell him right away how you feel and, what your viewpoint is. And then, hey, that may not be the one for you. You may not be the one for him, and that's okay. You have to understand that everybody doesn't feel the same way you do. Like I always talk about our moral compass. What I believe is not the same as you. And so we have to have an open mind, and we have to have an understanding of that fact. And my grandmother used to always say that when two people get married, you're taking two people from two totally different walks of life, and you're smashing them together into one home. And she said there's going to be so many differences, and there's going to be so many instances where the two of you have to stop and think about that and not react so quickly to a disagreement. And she said that you have to learn how to blend those two lives together to where it becomes a harmonious atmosphere for the both of you. And then when the children come, if they're not already there, it has to be harmonious for them as well. So ladies, let's figure out what it is that we want. Men, let's figure out what it is that you want, and let's communicate that with each other, and let's be open, and let's be comfortable with having open dialogue, so that way we can restore the black family in particular, and that way we can provide healthy living situations for ourselves and for our children. And understanding that sometimes, like I said, it's not always meant to be certain relationships, but if you can have a healthy relationship, do so, because I've had both, and so I can tell you that having a healthy relationship is much more pleasant than one that isn't. You sleep better at nighttime, when you're in a healthy situation, and when you have open dialogue and open communication, you're able to learn more about each other. You're able to have, a lot of good times. I can say that I'm happy. He doesn't like me telling too much of our business, so I won't, but we have a healthy relationship, and we talk about as many things as we possibly can. And even when we're a little irritated with each other, we try to talk it out, because I'm a big proponent of not going to bed upset with my mate, because I always feel like, what if that's the last time either one of us are alive? And I don't want to have that guilt, if one of us passes during the night, the other one is left, with that, upsetting situation being the last thing that we have with each other. So I'm really big on laughing before we go to bed, and I try to make sure that we do that, every night, that we laugh, even if it's over something super, super silly, that we laugh. And that will be the last moment that we always share with each other, because one never knows when it's going to be our time to go. So, that's very important to me. And so I'm telling you that, if you are having some issues, fix it and communicate, because that's very important. And whatever it is that you want, I was talking to my sister earlier today, Whatever you want as far as your life and your relationship status, you need to be vocal about that. And you need to define those roles for the man and the woman and what that's going to be and how you guys are going to move forward. So that's it for today. Unless anybody else has any last comments, I will hold it open for a little bit longer. So for those of you that are just joining, this is going to be the last video for this live challenge, but it won't be the last time you see me live. I'm starting a new challenge with a group of ladies that I'm in, and we're doing a new challenge for October, so there'll be different topics, and so you will still see my face, but this challenge is over. So this is the last day, and I've enjoyed being on here with you guys. I've learned a lot. I've shared a lot. I hope you guys have learned a lot and enjoyed hearing from me. And like I said, there will be more, lots more coming up. And I'm gonna make a separate post for my group that I'm starting. So this will be for ladies only, because that is who I feel I need to connect with at this time. And so ladies, be looking for that post. I'll tag some of you that I know that may be interested in joining the group, and there'll be some private sessions and more things that we will talk about that only affect us as women and how we can become better women. Over the last 6 years, I've done a lot of self awakening, I guess you can say, and I've challenged myself to become a better woman, and I can see the change in myself. And I hope that, those of you that know me personally can say that there has been a change in me and my attitude and my personality as well, because I've done a lot of work to make myself a better person, and I am aiming to continue to grow. As long as God allows me to live, I will be constantly challenging myself to do better and to become better. And I want the same for you. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed. So yeah, you guys, that's it for today. And I will, like I said, make a post for the group. So I hope that you ladies join. Things that are coming up for me tomorrow. I shared the post yesterday, but I'll share it again. I'm having a book discussion in Keys No Lock group on Facebook. So I'll share that. Please, it'll be on the Neighborhood Candy series. So if you want to join us in that discussion, I'll post a link and you can join the group. Next Saturday, October 8th, I'll be on a radio station interview. They'll be interviewing me about both of my books and my career as an author. So I'll repost that flyer again for those of you who want to listen in. Let's see what else. I have the next installment for I'm Free. I plan to release that this month, and that will be for single mothers. And then the following one will be on co-parenting. And then in December, I'll be going back to my romance novel or regular writing series. So Can't Blame It on Him will be coming out in December. So that's it, I think. I'm going to try to upload the rest of the live videos to my YouTube station this weekend. So if anybody missed any of the sessions, you'll be able to go to my YouTube channel and watch them again. As always, my inbox is always open. If you have a topic that you would like for me to discuss at any time, or you had any questions, feel free to contact me. My phone is always on, so I may not always reply right away, but I will as soon as I can. That's it for today. Thank you guys again. I love you all. This is your girl T Renee, and I'm out.